Hello, Costas. Can you hear me?
Hello, hello. Can you hear me on your side?
Yes, yes, loud and clear, loud and clear. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Amazing. We just finished, by the way, one of the blockchain courses we have in UAE. So I had all of my students working today.
Nice, nice, nice. That's great. Yeah, our CTO was in the UAE in Dubai a few weeks ago, and I believe he met you. His name is Morty.
Oh, yes. Yes, I remember that.
Yes, yes. Cool. Well, we're getting started here. Slowly but steadily, people are going to be joining the space. Today, I'm expecting a lot of our community members, the swarm truth seekers, as we call them. And
Nice.
everybody seemed pretty excited to be talking to you, man. Like you're a living legend among the SUI community, that's for sure.
Uh-huh.
But there's also a lot of people that are not familiar with who you are yet. So maybe it's due to like them not being so familiar with the SUI ecosystem. We actually pulled in a lot of users that came from other places. So maybe you can do a quick introduction and also tell us a little bit about SUI.
Of course, of course. By the way, I'm very happy to discuss these topics. As you all know, or many people know, I am the cryptographer of Mistin Labs, the company behind SUI, and I used to be the lead cryptographer of Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook. I was in the team that created Libra. Libra didn't launch, and obviously the team had to find a better place than Facebook back then. Many reasons, especially regulation, and if you understand that Facebook, okay, they own your social data, it was very difficult for people to accept, and some countries to accept that they're going to also have some access to our financials. And I get this, and there was a reason that we created SUI because there was so much technology back then at Facebook that it was almost impossible to actually leave all of this behind. And the innovation was like pretty much at the quality level I've never seen before personally. And I'm in the space since 2010. Imagine I finished my PhD in cryptography pretty much at the time that the Bitcoin paper was announced. And I was very, very lucky in my life because, you know, the cryptographer's life is typically to go into an agency or work as an academic. But the Bitcoin itself changed my life personally. And I was lucky to work with some of the first developers of Satoshi. Back then, it was Mike Hahn, and with him, we created another blockchain which was permissioned. It was like the biggest fintech in the world in 2016. And as you can imagine, myself working at the very early days of Ethereum, I could find bugs as cryptographer in every single smart contract I was auditing. I was a white hat hacker. And it was one of the reasons that eventually Mark and the team behind Libra hired me, and I went to Palo Alto. I started from like pretty much from zero when Facebook started to build their own blockchain, and we made it to something that was very unique, some very good algorithms, and eventually we created SUI by building on top of this and actually innovating a lot more, even putting AI on chain. So this is who I am, and what is SUI? SUI is pretty much the fastest blockchain in the world, and I would say the most innovative, and something that makes me very, very happy is the concentration of brain power of SUI. There is a reason why you're talking with me today. It's not me, right? Myself, I'm doing all of the algorithmic stuff, but I can assure you that there are about 50, 60 people with probably some of the best innovations in the world, all of them organized in one single team, trying to make SUI the coordination layer for everything, both in Web 2 and Web 3. Very recently, you might have seen me hacking as well on IoT devices. Pretty much, SUI can now even make a coffee. So I managed to connect SUI with coffee machines. You can even control the coffee machine from your wallet. Very recently, I managed to do the automation of my house with SUI. I use SUI wallet again to control everything on my house. So this is who I am. Imagine me as a hacker. Open the world for anything you want. Verifiable AI, how cryptography can help on AI. Even why I personally started with AI and I ended up being a researcher on cryptography. But yeah, nice to hear from everybody here.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for that introduction. I think, it's actually my first time to be able to speak to somebody that's actually, studied and has been part of this whole come up of like the blockchain space in general. So I'm pretty excited to discuss some deeper topics as well. But for the sake of the audience, of course, we should try to simplify everything. Sometimes I have the tendency to try to go too deep into things, but we'll try to keep it understandable for everybody. So everybody that's on the space, don't worry. We'll make sure that we do that. So yeah, so first of all, like we are also part of the SUI Hub Accelerator, and we actually had the chance to talk to a few people from Miston Labs, and I can definitely confirm what you said, that there's like so many bright minds working with you guys and for you guys, and they're really pushing the limits. For example, today I had the chance to speak to Lola. We had a session from her, and she was like super insightful regarding like like the UX UI experience and the promotion and the marketing side of things. It was like one of the most insightful conversations I've had regarding the space in general, and she had so much depth of knowledge. So like I think that you guys are really on point, and that's something that we don't see all too often in the space nowadays. I know that the beginnings of the blockchain industry were driven by fanatics in cryptography like you, and potentially we could call a lot of the early adopters idealists with a very idealistic view of the world, a better view of the world, in my opinion. But sometimes, like we see a very diluted, version of that nowadays, especially with so much that's going on. But there's still hope, like you guys, like Miston Labs and SUI, and hopefully us building on top of you guys and having the, privilege to be able to be part of SUI Hub, and thus get access to the SUI network and Miston Labs. It's really an honor, man. Thank you so much for that
Amazing,
opportunity.
amazing. But by the way, even personally, I was one of the judges, and congratulations for making it to the finals. Imagine that also for the people who are here, we had 656, if I remember correctly, applications, and only six managed to go to the finals. And I'm telling you, I had a very, very tough like period of my life to be able to pick between the top 30. It was very, very difficult. All of them were at least like meeting the bars, including yourself, of
Hmm.
course. There is a reason you made it. I'm personally an advocate for AI on crypto in general. You mentioned Lola just before.
Yeah,
Something that is not known to the public probably is, Lola used to be the head of product of Shopify.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. She told me.
yes, as you can imagine, it's not only the research and the big brains that are coming for the research part and new algorithms and all of these things. UI and hiding the blockchain stuff sometimes completely plays a huge role. It's very difficult. Imagine myself working for WhatsApp for a while. I also audited parts of the like end-to-end encryptions, especially for payments on WhatsApp and Messenger. This is what we try to do. It was not only at Facebook. We didn't want to just create a blockchain. We wanted for WhatsApp and Messenger to be able to send money between people, right? So you need end-to-end, you need privacy, you need all of this stuff. But then I realized, okay, algorithmic part, yes, I can cover it as a cryptographer. We have a few people who are doing research on programming languages, like the CTO of SUI. But you need also folks who know how to serve billions of people. At Facebook, the vast majority of users couldn't even maintain a simple password. Imagine if you tell them go to the blockchain and now you have a 12-word password and all of this stuff. No, it wouldn't work.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
one of the
sure.
reasons is how do you make these people adapt to a new environment that they need to protect their keys, right? It's not
Yeah.
easy. It's not easy, and you need constant training. You need all of this AI that we're doing here. I personally believe a lot how we can also help on the education element because AI
Hmm.
is one part is to protect our data, verifiable data, and all of this stuff. The other is it will create content that will make the life easier for the crypto users of the future. And
Hmm.
imagine these people can be gamers from 16 to 18 years old and they want to do crypto as well. But it might be
Hmm.
our parents as well that are 50, 60, 70, and they are not like used to remember secrets. They always delegate this to Google, Facebook, and that's all they have in their lives, and probably a small pin of 4 characters.
Yeah.
So people like Lola gave a different perspective on how we can demystify the back end of the blockchain and actually make the applications using the good features of the blockchain, like the transparency and the security and the privacy elements, but without this being visible and understandable necessarily to folks. It might be like as a black
Hmm.
box that you know something is secure,
Hmm.
now use it and create new applications, create new startups.
Yeah, I always like to draw the parallel between like the early days of the internet as well, when everybody settled on a certain protocol, but the main interface that most of the users interfaced with was really just like a website, right? So you always have two sides of the coin or two sides of the spectrum, which is like the builders, the people that make things secure and available and scalable. But then the largest portion of the people that are actually going to use the technologies, they're users, right? And they need to have that simplicity, because like we cannot expect everybody to go out of their way and to really try to understand these new things when there's already so many things going on in their life, and there's other centralized services that just make it very easy. Like we have this notion of cloud capital and the cloudalists where everything is for free, like Google and so on, right? Like it's so easy for people, right? And they're already accustomed to this kind of easy experience for the last 2 decades. So like if we cannot muster up as the blockchain world to come close to some kind of like streamlined version of like what the centralized services are offering, maybe we can even build something better, who knows, right? But at least we need to have a similar onboarding experience, nice abstraction of like the underlying technology. The user in the end just want the 297,000 transaction per second throughput, but they just know that their money is arriving, right?
A
Like
hundred
that makes so
percent,
much sense.
100%. So this is what we're trying to do here, right? One is we're creating some of the fastest algorithms in the world and the most secure ones, and at the same time we want to make everything feel seamless, either by using AI or some zero knowledge proof technology, or even helping the language itself to be a bit more descriptive, right? One of the reasons that we're scaling SUI at these levels of zero point 0.4 seconds of latency, you can even have a game now, in my opinion, with the fact that the validators can run at such speed, you can now run AI on chain, or you can use other services to run AI on chain and scale it. I, in my opinion, the connection point and the convergent evolution between the two technologies, because at the moment machine learning and crypto is pretty much the most, I would say, hyped technology and algorithmic like innovations of the world today, at least, that you can also make money, you can create new tools, you can create new startups. I don't believe there is any other industry in the world that can offer this today.
Yeah.
They found an inflection point where now you can build things together. This was not possible a year ago or 2 years ago, I would say, because the blockchains were just testing themselves into a new limit of very fast transactions. Verifiable AI didn't exist back then. We only trusted ChatGPT and all of the rest. At the same time, cryptography was also not very fast itself, right? To be able to reach the levels of compression, cost, speed that we want today as society. But I believe after 2023, we were lucky to be at this time scale in our life where many of the things became possible. And now we, luckily, and at the same time, maybe we managed to time the technology. SUI literally emerged at the like period where AI was becoming a reality.
Hmm.
So things that were designed before AI and things that were designed at the same time that AI made it had a huge difference on how people can learn new stuff, scale things, and verify things.
Hmm.
So in that sense, I believe we were at the right time, the right place, so many big brains to make it happen.
Hmm.
And
Could
yeah,
you could you talk a little bit about like what are those strengths then that SUI offers AI builders? Because I am aware, but the audience doesn't really understand this part. Maybe you can explain it in a
of
simple manner.
course, of course. So there are a few things. Let's assume that we want to run some AI today on any blockchain in the world. It might be impossible sometimes. There are many reasons for this. First,
Mm-hmm.
you need to solve the problem of training models, and you need some security, and you need, privacy as well of your data. You want to know how you can monetize with your data itself. You need a blockchain that can actually maintain this traffic, and you need a way to have the cryptography itself, like encryption of the data to be transferred between identities, between entities who control the data, including you, like as a user of the blockchain. Maybe one day you will monetize by the fact that you're doing a like in a web page, that you're making a transaction, that you're getting a net drop, that you're scaling something else, that you're finding a bug. All of these things eventually need to be able to be handled by a blockchain. AI now can help you do the following. You can use AI to improve the blockchain itself. How can we do that? We created for the first time Baghdad, which is like a tool that can find vulnerabilities in smart contracts or even applications of the blockchain. But as you can imagine, this requires custom training of models. And we did this, and it was one of the reasons that Google invited us last year and even until now. Gemini used to explore new ways of competing with ChatGPT. SUI, the Baghdad application, Bug Radar, like finding vulnerabilities, was the first application that Google tried to explore their system against ChatGPT on how we can protect our Web3 components. Some of the attacks we found on the space, not in SUI, but in the general space while we were training the model, were literally a jaw-dropping experience. I personally found some pretty much billion-dollar attacks just by using AI agents to be able to handle all of the edge cases of a smart contract, to figure out how the SDK is working with a smart contract. So one side of the equation is we use AI for better and more secure smart contracts. There are tools already in SUI that does this. It is in particular only for SUI now, but trained on other blockchains as well. So we were learning from Solidity to fix the problems in SUI Move. The second thing that we did is we added all of the encryption mechanisms for someone to have verifiable AI, for someone to be able to use zero knowledge proofs directly on SUI to run very expensive computations off chain and then bring this back to chain. If you go on Ethereum and run this, it will cost you many, many dollars. I'm not even sure if you can fit this in a big chunk of data, because SUI is supporting up to 130 kilobytes of data, which is huge, right? For a blockchain, this is immense. Now you can send real data on the blockchain that was impossible to do it in any other blockchain. I feel Solana, for example, might be in a couple of kilobytes or something. Imagine what you get with 130 kilobytes. The other thing
Yeah.
that was very useful in SUI is you can chunk transactions together, you can chain transactions, you can create groups of transactions that all of them succeed or all of them fail. So for example, you might say, if the AI output of this smart contract is X, then I can make another transaction or another payment, or I can do some trading. You can even use AI for trading now. This
Mm-hmm.
is something that we call PTB, programmable transaction blocks. And in these programmable transaction blocks, you can create multiple commands in one transaction. And as I said before, plus the fact that you can do huge transactions in size, SUI is the only blockchain at the moment offering these capabilities. And there is another thing that, as you know, very recently, SUI, the team behind SUI created Walrus,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
Walrus itself can be used now to store large data, even more than 130 kilobytes, gigabytes, terabytes. This gives the ability to verify whatever you are running. You are storing it to a better system that
Mm-hmm.
communicates really well with the blockchain. You're not using IPFS. You're not using AWS, where one day you might lose the source. You don't know if the hash matches the file and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But SUI is having a coordination layer for data. And you know, AI is requiring data. How can you
Yep.
do stuff without data?
Yep.
But now you have the option to monetize from your data.
Yep.
Because if you have a system that solves the storage layer, that solves the coordination layer, and also solves the authentication layer with custom account abstraction, you can have multi-sig on SUI, you can even have the AI agent to pay on behalf of you on the transaction.
Mm-hmm.
This is not even possible on other chains, right? You have to do account abstraction on Ethereum, and then you have to go through new standards, you have to go through third-party libraries and all of this stuff. While in SUI, everything is native.
Mm-hmm.
And because you manage to have nodes that are running at higher speeds than other, like they can do more commands per second than other blockchains,
Mm-hmm.
now it's typically possible to scale with AI. I
Yeah.
can imagine a new CryptoKitties on SUI where all of the logic can be on chain or being verified on chain.
Yeah. We're
Before it
actually,
was very, very difficult, right? In the
yeah,
past.
we're actually like literally right now as we're speaking, we're integrating a lot of the things that you just spoke about. So our vision is like, okay, we have a framework for building agents, which is very scalable, and it makes the whole process much simpler, right? So with our no code tool, what you just simply do is you abstract away all of the complex systems that agents and clusters of agents, so clusters of agents or groups of agents up to 100 agents within one cluster that have some kind of coordination going on, and even on the swarm level, which can be up to 1,000 clusters within one swarm. Like if you want to build that now, right now with code, like by yourself with a team of developers, it's relatively hard to do. But what we did is we just made everything prompt based, text based. So you can write a prompt, you can literally describe what your cluster should be able to do, how it looks like, how many agents there are, what kind of tools they should have access to, especially now that we have new standards with MCP and we're actually building like MCP servers to be able to interact with Walrus and so on. But you can just prompt it and you will get instantly, you'll get like up to 100 agents predefined for you with system prompts and so on. You can deploy them and then you can get immediately into testing them. So you can imagine how much of a speed up that is compared to the normal way of building agents. But what's really cool is that we wanted to also say, okay, well, we want to prove the concept of these large systems of agents to be actually useful and to be able to do something, like drive utility on the blockchain, on SUI specifically. So we created the first swarm of many to come. Obviously, our users, they will be able to create swarms as well. But we created Rollup. So Rollup, actually what it does is it fact checks information across the entire internet, but also into private databases and self-hosted databases, for example, at like MIT and Harvard, where our network of agents accesses information based off claims. It then analyzes it, gives it a score, a truthfulness score, 100% or 100 points is true, 0 points is false, and then brings that data on chain. And right now it actually is bringing it onto Walrus. So, like that's something that was not possible before, but now all of a sudden you
Exactly.
have this important information on chain. It is on chain, and you can now actually use that data to go and do like certain things in other smart contract logic, right? So you could now build very complex, for example, prediction markets is one thing that we're really excited about. A lot of people don't know, but actually the first product we ever launched was a prediction market, and we had more than 4 million users. But we redacted that, and we wanted to center our focus on the main product line, and we'll bring that back in the future, because it was just impossible to build what we wanted to build, because we were working with arbitrary data, and it was almost impossible to get really arbitrary data on chain. Like certain things we could just not verify on chain because the data was not there. So we were like, okay, well, that is a huge problem. So let's see if we can use our technology of building these swarms and clusters and actually build something that can in real time just bring arbitrary data on chain. And we succeeded. And the really cool thing is that, like SUI just makes it so easy, man. Even if you think about like, unlike the account-based models, like the SUI's object-centric architecture, that it just enables this really dynamic interaction between assets where each agent can own and modify objects like models or liquidity positions, or like with owner types ranging from single owners to like shared states. And there's just so much like composability really within the space, and that these systems can become really complex. And like, and on any other chain, that's just it's just not possible. So that's like one of the main reasons why we settled on SUI. It was a really clear decision for us. So yeah, super
100%.
super
Yes.
excited.
And I will say something that helped a lot even on the development. Imagine you're a development company, right? And you're focusing
Mm,
also on other devs that are going to build their own agents and so on. So
mm,
technically, having objects doesn't get you too far from the original languages that you were familiar with on the Web 2 world. Because what happened on Ethereum and Solana and the rest, right? They went into the account-based system just because you had to compress everything into a single point of control,
mm,
because compression was important to minimize the gas cost and to reduce, to compress the transaction size and all of this stuff. By the time we managed to have very, very fast consensus algorithms, then we opened again the door back to objects. And this ability to have objects that they can be transferred on parallel, they can be updated. Again, it might be a dynamic object now. It's not like fixed objects. And at the same time, each object might have an owner, or an object can have as an object a field as an object, right? So you can create a
Mm-hmm.
composability that is pretty much the language you're learning in the first like year of your like computer science school, made it a lot easier for people to visualize something. I mean, even on paper, and then convert it into the SUI move language. In my opinion, this
Mm-hmm.
was huge because now you don't have to sacrifice for compression and gas cost.
Mm-hmm.
The consensus itself is doing it for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which was super useful. And I will say that the object model itself that was super important. There are a few other things that actually even your company can take advantage on, right? You know that SUI at the moment has a randomness beacon natively into the protocol. Do
Oh,
you know how important is this for verification,
yeah.
for verifiable AI?
Yeah.
Can you imagine one big application that many people believe, okay, SUI had a randomness beacon, are you enabling like gambling and lottery only? No,
No, it's not about that.
no. The randomness beacon can be used for verifiable AI. And I can give you an example. Go ask the same question today, I mean, the listeners of this group, to ChatGPT, and for the same prompt, you're going to get 20 different answers. How can we go and create agents down the road where we know that, look, you have only one option, you have one time to ask the agent. Otherwise, you might, out of the 20 results, you might just pick one and then forget the other 19, but nobody knows that you asked 19 or 20 times.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot, I mean, people who are copying paste stuff on Twitter or other places, we don't know how many times they asked or how, I mean, what was the trained model before this question? Maybe you
Mm-hmm.
asked this question 20 times and you just kept one of them.
Mm-hmm.
What if you have a random seed that you say every single time I have to ask you with a different random seed that you know that this happened for exactly this request and I didn't ask the same thing 20 times.
Mm-hmm.
So the randomness beacon can provide the uniqueness thing that all of the verifiable systems require. In cryptography, this is one of the elements required to have your keys being secure when you're exchanging data, when you're signing.
Mm-hmm.
You need randomness.
Yeah.
The same thing for verification. So people don't realize that the randomness itself can verify AI outputs as well,
Yeah.
which was an amazing result we had that people didn't believe at the very beginning.
Yeah, and it's not just it's all about data in the end, right? It's like you essentially assign like a random number to an output, and that's how you can verify its reality essentially, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the other two tools, in my opinion, that you have to take into account, and I believe that's how companies like you picked SUI. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is zero knowledge, right?
Yeah.
If in some sense, you can even do stuff on private off-chain data, and your swarm agents can verify very quickly with one single transaction on chain. You don't even need to implement the move language on chain. You
Yeah.
just implement the proof itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this makes a lot easier your work because you can work on C or Rust off chain and then just transfer the results from your Swarm agents. And this is how, I mean, you just call a function on SUI, just
Yeah.
a very simple function that it's always the same. I'm always verifying a zero knowledge proof.
Yeah.
The smart contract is as easy to read as possible.
Yeah. Actually, we have found a very interesting application for this because like we're essentially trying to like the big vision of everything that we're building adjacent to Swarm Network is that we're trying to build like a truth verification function on top of SUI. You could call it like an adjacent protocol. You could call it a protocol on top of SUI. But what is a problem that we ran into is like, how can we have, so we have claims, right? Claims are our main unit for verifying any type of arbitrary data. So a claim is just a statement essentially that says that, okay, this, like this statement assumes X, Y, and Z. And then with that statement has to come some kind of verification. And the verification usually comes in the form of like either like a document or maybe a link or maybe like a transaction, right? So it has to be sourced, but not everything can be sourced on chain. So you have this issue where you're saying like, okay, well, we have a claim and we want to verify that claim, and maybe that information is not publicly available. But let's say somebody somewhere in the world has an account and they work for the government of the United States, and they can, log into their account, and they can, show us that this statement regarding like a certain transaction to a certain jurisdiction or something like that is true, but we don't want to reveal the identity of this person. So our CTO came like up with a genius solution for this. Is right now for Rollup we're actually developing a plugin for your browser, which you can use to then use this ZK function to prove that you are showing this evidence without actually having to reveal your identity and so on. And that is really the function of bringing like this Web 2 or like something off chain on chain without even having to, without even having to build like a highly complex system. It's all possible through what's available.
100%. And there is a new tool, actually, we launched it a couple of weeks ago that is called Nautilus. This is using the
Yep.
trusted execution environments. And now imagine as if you have a black box. What is a secure enclave? Even your iPhones now and most of the like recent phones, they do have a secure box internally. Imagine a CPU where even Apple or yourself, you cannot penetrate, you cannot see what's happening inside.
Mm-hmm.
So what we did with SUI is, okay, someone can do verifiable computations off-chain by converting this to a zero knowledge proof, but in some situations, it depends on what exactly you want to prove. It might be very expensive or it takes a lot of time. So what you can do is we have another system that is using a network of secure enclaves where you are running this into this black box that even the owner of the box cannot really see what's happening internally.
Mm-hmm.
But the nice property of this is you are running regular code. It can be Rust, it can be C, it can be anything you can imagine, and then you can produce an attestation proof, which is pretty much like a digital signature. And now instead of verifying a zero knowledge proof, you're verifying the attestation signature from this black box. Again, the
Mm-hmm.
same thing, private data goes in, you're producing some function over the private data, you're
Mm-hmm.
outputting the result, and you have a proof, like a stamp, that this result came from the black box. So at the
Mm-hmm.
moment in SUI, you have two options to provide off-chain verifiability with privacy, either with zero knowledge proofs, one of the first blockchains, if not the first, that has native zero knowledge proof functionality, not related to a third-party provider or smart contract. It's native internally to
Mm-hmm.
the SDK. And the second one is you can use Nautilus, which is a cluster of secure enclaves where you can send the data there, and as a black box, you're getting an attestation proof. So
Mm-hmm.
these are the two methods at the moment people can use in SUI. As you said, you're using the zero knowledge proof part to prove something from a website, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm logging into my website, I go to my IRS, to my whatever is the governmental website, I extract some data from there, and you prove to me that yes, this person had an account on government, this is the output of
Yes.
something that I've seen in the web page, but I will never
Yes.
show you the identity or all of the other things that is on the web page, which is
Yes.
super
Correct.
important, right? This is how you're doing AI and blockchain for news misinformation. This is how you're doing
Yes.
so many different things that was impossible before. And this is how, in my opinion, people can monetize from their own data in a private way in the future. Because
Yep.
you started with this, training a model or having an output with a Swarm agent that is using zero knowledge, but also the person that gave you this information that works for the government or had an account in a governmental website, they might even monetize from this. Yes, I'm
Yep.
giving you something with privacy, but I also want to get paid.
Yes, yes, exactly. So for some, like in the case of misinformation and validating certain like crucial information, like on chain, the real beauty for it is that now everything can be anonymous. So I can essentially launch a campaign globally, an inquiry, as long as I have the reach to uncover information which I know that is out there and which will make a huge impact on the world. Let's put it into perspective. Let's say, for example, I am a Edward Snowden and I want to expose, some crucial thing which is going to affect humanity. But I also want to remain anonymous. Well, good luck, right? Because you need the credibility and you need to be able to verify who you are. So the only thing you can do is blow the whistle and then potentially, like go to jail or probably end up somewhere in a bad place, right? But now all of a sudden that is possible because we can trust the system, right? We can trust the process. And now I can say, okay, I have a, let's say, like, I have a piece of information which I wanted to be verified, and I don't have the capability to do so, but it holds monetary, like financial value. Like I can put a number on it. Let's say I will be willing to pay $100,000 for the person that is able to help me verify this information. It might even be like multiple people, right? And now you can have that exchange of value, which is a very liberating thing, in my opinion, for like the times that we live in, where it's really hard to discern fact from fiction. And there's so much turbulence in the world, and like social media is really not contributing very well to the depolarization of the society. I think that especially in the West, we are being, like kind of like put up against each other. There's usually two or three camps, and it becomes very tribal, and we kind of lose the sense of humanity because we're just interacting with each other through, like a abstracted layer of text, and we're seeing each other on the screen, and we're not looking each other in the eye, and there's no opportunity for like for real emotion and for real energy to transfer between us other than our own internal emotions. And that's, yeah, that's not always a good thing, but this technology allows us to at least take a few steps forward towards liberation, which gives me a lot of hope. People always think that blockchain is purely about like breaking free from the like monetary system that is mainly controlled by the West, and the whole very inefficient, still mainly running on COBOL language, the banking system and so on. But it's not. It's actually about data. Like data is now just finally breaking through with solutions like like large object sizes, but also Walrus. This is just so exciting for me, Costas. It's so exciting.
It is. And I will say that because of crypto, even the Web2 world has now some innovations that were impossible before. Because, when you put some money and effort on changing the whole ecosystem, eventually this technology is getting adopted by other places as well. I'm
Mm-hmm.
telling you, without crypto, zero knowledge proofs and fast digital signatures and even verifiable AI wouldn't be possible for humanity,
Mm-hmm.
because you needed a vehicle, right? You needed at least one industry to focus on improving this. And I believe that because everybody at the very beginning was focusing on gas optimization, parallelization, how we can make this system a bit like more effective than the current Visa and Mastercard system,
Mm-hmm.
created this requirement to improve all of the processes, especially on the algorithm side, that I now see regular businesses that are not using blockchain technology, they are using the primitives that came out of the blockchain technology.
Mm-hmm.
And this makes me even more proud sometimes. Look, I'm working on something that is reshaping the system of not only transactions, but also transparency, verifiability. Go and create a lottery now anywhere in the world that is verifiable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There is no verifiable lottery outside the blockchains. It's very
Right.
difficult to do it. I mean,
Right.
even countries that they are doing with the ping pong balls, the balls might be magnetic, might be cold, might be whatever it is, right? And you can never find the mathematical proof that it was safe.
Mm-hmm.
But now we do have systems that everybody can use, and I believe this is something that I had a discussion with a few governments in lately, because many ministries are actually calling us. Look, this thing is from
Mm-hmm.
Facebook. Obviously, if we're going to go Web3, it's probably a team that has some credibility already. It's not only the technology itself. We know that you can serve billions of people, and then
Mm-hmm.
you go there and you need to simplify a few things, right? And then you explain to them, look, what is the fastest digital signature algorithm today? It came from the blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they realize that all of the things that they're doing now to prove, I don't know, verification of age without showing your full ID,
Mm-hmm.
verification of identity, other things that are having to do with audits and tax reports and everything, they realize, wow, we never realized that
Mm-hmm.
after Satoshi, all of this technology that was used to make crypto better is also making our lives better on Web 2. So
Mm,
I can see why whatever you're building now, and especially if we demystify, we hide completely the blockchain stuff, the blockchain will be a primitive hidden in the background that people will know this is the transparent and safe way to build stuff.
mm,
I don't even need to know how it works. And this
mm,
is a big win, right? If we manage to reach this state where a casual minister, not fully educated from a particular country, realizes that it's a technology thing that can offer better transparency and security, they go automatically in the autopilot into using the blockchain. And this is
mm,
where I believe we're heading as society at the moment. Yes, we
mm,
started with trading. The next step is we're going into real world applications, and they're coming
mm,
not necessarily because of crypto, because they realize the technology of crypto is so powerful that we have to
mm,
use it because there is no alternative.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, at one point also the requirements are for the technology to exist within traditional, not only financial institutions, but like anywhere from insurance for verification and like KYC and this kind of stuff, AML. Like at one point the velocity of information that we transmit among each other globally is just going to outpace the capabilities of traditional systems too, right? Like there's going to be this inflection point where it's just going to only make sense. Well, not only, but it's going to make more sense for these large institutions to transition to something that already exists and can handle their, like their requirements, opposed to just completely redoing the whole
Yeah,
stack from the ground up. Like it just doesn't make
yes.
sense, right? So that is also something that people misunderstand about the blockchain space and cryptography in general, is that you don't need to innovate from the ground up with institutions. They need solutions, and they need solutions fast. They don't have time. They will realize that they need a solution, and then within 3 to 4 weeks they need to have like an executive plan ready that has to go through all different types of governance and so on. And then once they pull the trigger, they want to switch as soon as possible, right? And then the real challenge becomes like, who is there to be able to be the chain, or be like the lab, like Miston Labs, or whoever, be the swarm network, to be able to service these kind of institutions and facilitate their transition. We are not trying to lure them in, we're not trying to own them, we're not trying to even maybe have like financial relationships with them to a certain degree. We just facilitate, right? That's the most important, to really like get this whole blockchain thing into the hands of the people around the world.
Let me give you, now you gave me an interesting pass. I was in a particular country 2 weeks ago that we discussed about real estate on chain. Real estate,
Mm,
right? We all understand what is buying a house, renting a house, and all of these things.
mm,
Do you know how the blockchain itself can be part of the government strategy and AI to improve liquidity on real estate? You cannot imagine. So people at the moment, we are working with the paperwork, right? You have a contract, you go to the homeowner, and then
mm.
you are a tenant, or you're buying, you're purchasing something. There is some agents being involved, all of them with paperwork, right? This is
Yeah.
what's happening today. There are small letters in your contracts. There are many other things happening. Now, if you understand how illiquid is the real estate asset today in the world, you will realize that all of these countries, that they want to improve the prices, they want to improve the market, the real estate market. Some of them are in the pretty much very close to a bubble burst. It's not
Mm-hmm.
easy. They don't know exactly what to do. They realized, and there was one point I made about AI and the blockchain, guys, you know how most of the trading is happening in the rest of the world? It's AI agents. Do you know what
Mm-hmm.
is probably the only sector that doesn't have AI agents today? Real estate.
Mm. Yeah.
Because it's very complex. It's like too
Very
many too many
bureaucratic.
rules, regulations. Yes, too bureaucratic. You change that, and automatically in the next few years, a big
Yeah.
percentage of your transactions, especially if you combine it with the SUI technology, that you have programmable trades, right? You can buy, imagine something in Italy, and then you buy a house in Austria, and then you convert it to gold, then you
Mm.
convert it into Bitcoin, and
Mm.
then eventually in 1 minute, in 1 second, you might have the transaction of your life, and be
Yeah.
profitable, because people are using agents for trading. And
Yeah.
the agents for trading will only happen If you unlock and you relax some of the operations, the regulatory operations, you become more modern. And then they realized, look, Costas, we have to use the blockchain. This is how the meeting ended, by the way. They realized that there is no other way to make the real estate industry liquid. It's only the
Yeah.
blockchain,
Yeah. And that is the
right?
crucial
So,
that's the
yeah,
crucial part of the education process, like when I also talk to especially like institution level leadership that is not really in tune with the possibilities, you'll always get these, like these concerns and these objections which are based in an outdated version and vision and belief of what the blockchain is capable of. They're like, for example, like an argument you must have gotten is like, but we want to know who buys the house, right? Yeah, you can know who buys the house. You can KYC people. That's not the problem. If you want KYC to be a prerequisite, and you then can do so much more with that KYC. For example, you can create this automated compliance layer. When I bought a house, all of the paperwork is handled on chain. All of the transfer of ownership that is has like exactly according to the metadata and the structure that the government database requires it to be, is immediately handled upon like transfer of asset. Like these kinds of things are actually possible. So
and
this misconception is like a slow kind of like mill that you have to grind, and you have to go, and like people like you are so crucial in that aspect. Like you actually get the opportunity to do the education on our behalf.
100%. Do you know how I explained them? Because they asked me the same question that you did now. I mean, pretty much your story. It's how do we do KYC and how do we know if a function during purchase on the blockchain is actually having the credentials, whatever is required for the KYC provision and everything? Guys,
Mm,
again, because SUI is object based, you can just present an NFT that you've been KYC'd, and the function itself will know if you are KYC'd or not, and then you are able to do the trade. Otherwise, it will fail, the transaction will fail. So imagine
mm,
another cool application of the object-based system is you can present the NFTs in particular functions as an evidence of you owning something else. Because the
mm,
NFTs on SUI are owned by the account, right? They're not in a hash map
mm,
as it is on Ethereum.
mm,
So technically you can present them now, and one contract knows how to communicate with the other contract, even if the developers are completely dependent between each other. So
mm.
there they realized, wow, any certificate can be an NFT. Yes, it can be an NFT, and
And
you
it
can
can
be
be collateral.
present it, and yes, exactly. And it can
Yes.
also, you can also have collaterals now. You can do something that was impossible before, and now you have the option to do it easily. You need to talk
Yeah.
with very simple words, right? Otherwise, it's very
Yeah.
difficult for these people to understand you. But when they
Yeah.
realize NFT is not only art, it's certificates. It's an object. You can present the object, you can prove whatever you want with zero knowledge there if you want. Then you
Mm,
unlock them for a while and they think, wow, now this technology can actually make our plans a reality, right? Because
mm,
previously we
mm.
thought either it's too expensive or it's not possible.
Mm. In the Netherlands, I had the opportunity to talk to some financiers that were doing directly business with some of the major banks, and they are always having concerns about the derivatives and how they can confirm and verify collateral and this kind of stuff. But it's really cool, right? You can even create objects that have like certain rules to them, right? It's like they are not transferable from person to person, but they are transferable if you or they are like able to be become like um, a proof of ownership for a certain smart contract function, right? So you have the combination of your wallet address and the object that allows you to interact with a certain contract, but only you, right? And because you're already KYC, then because that asset is not transferable, you you have your whole issue solved there. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you can even go as far as have that object actually be transferable under certain circumstances which are codependent on other contracts.
Exactly. Yes, you can do whatever you want, right? This is a pure, full Turing machine, complete. You can do any logic you can imagine. And people can set whatever like restrictions they want in their contracts. They can also update their contracts under certain circumstances. You know the Bybit safe hack that happened
Mm,
a month ago.
yeah.
One of the reasons that this failed, is because even on Ethereum, you cannot very easily have capabilities on who can do what on the smart contract. In SUI, it's very
Yeah.
easy. You know, there is an admin. This admin is the only person responsible for updating this. Or for another capability, if you want to upgrade something in particular, you need another admin, like a bigger committee for this stuff. Or you need to export at least one event so people can see it's happening. There is a time period where you cannot do any transactions with a new contract until someone has audited the update and so on. So all of these things are crucial for the security of the system, right? Some people are afraid I can do all of this stuff. What if I change my mind in the future and I want to do something
Mm.
differently? It is possible on the blockchain. Yes, it's immutable, but people don't understand that if you set even the rules for updating properly, as we do in Sui Move, then you can have the evolution that you want as a company, as an institution, as a startup.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, this is where we make a huge difference between anybody else in the industry at the moment.
Mm.
And I will say this is something that even AI companies want at the moment because you know you had ChatGPT 3, then ChatGPT 4, then ChatGPT 4.1, then verifiable AI, then you might have something else in the future. We can do these things on Sui now today, right? You don't need to wait a couple of years until a new standard is exposed, then Vitalik gives a stamp and so on.
Yeah.
It's getting
Yeah.
a bit like organically on Sui compared to anything else.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. All right, we're almost at the end of our hour, and I want to switch gears. I want to point our eyes towards the future, and I have a notion which I'm already here that you agree with, but I would like to understand from your perspective what is the like the challenges and the gaps and what kind of things that we can do and fill. So my notion is this: AI is intended to be a middleware layer between the Web3 and the users to be able to do all kinds of very interesting stuff. And we've actually sold more than 5,000 agent licenses, and those are $1,000 a pop, and they go to people that want to build their own swarm. So these are the people that are going to get access to our tools, and they can start building AI powered swarms of up to hundreds, even to 1,000 agents for each swarm, but they need to find proper business models. So my question to you, what do you think that is, what kind of like maybe like sectors or what kind of like maybe even you have very specific ideas for the types of like large swarm ecosystems and businesses people should at least consider to build on top of SUI?
Yes. So some of the industries that I've thought about in the past, right? I'm very curious on this combination of the two. It's definitely AI and blockchain for news misinformation. Generally, this is required, and we might need multiple swarms because the data is everywhere, right? And we need to
Hmm.
verify every single point of data. The other
Yeah.
is private sharing, selected disclosure of data, mainly for health, advertisement. You know, Facebook was
Mm.
was transferring ads here and there, and they had the issue with Cambridge Analytica in the past.
Yeah.
We need some agents here that they are going to do and KYC. So private sharing of data is a big problem, and we need to solve it both with zero knowledge proofs and AI. This is pretty much a combination of the two technology. The
Mm.
other is security patterns. You need to create bots, fraud detection, credit score, breach status. I mean, you need to have agents, for example, to create a total breach across every blockchain. All of
Yep.
the agents are looking to every chain, and then they're putting all of their data into one particular coordination layer. Hopefully,
Yep.
this is SUI. But you understand that security patterns is one industry as a whole, right? You need to
Yep.
create vulnerability tools, bots, and status monitoring tools. The other is
Right.
infra optimization. I know that with many tools that are running probably different algorithms, some of them AI algorithms, we can do even a better validator setup, better transaction parallelization, better wallet and full node combinations. Probably someone can create an Oracle network that is using AI just to
Mm.
improve efficiency and gas cost. This will happen again because the gas can accumulate right down the road. Or
Mm.
some people imagine, especially on gaming, they want to have all of this like pretty much in an organized, self-evolving way. The other is
Mm.
trading optimization. Come on, we have strategies now. We can do algorithmic trading on the blockchain. The fact
Right.
that Sui managed to have a sub-second latency is offering new opportunities even of high frequency trading. What do you do on high frequency trading? In real life, 99.99% is bots. It's agents. Let's
Yeah.
let's accept this. This is a stakeholder in the system. We have to consider it as a user, AI, right?
Yeah.
Of course, we can do genetic algorithms and other things. I believe someone will build a better crypto kitties, smarter. Someone can even create robots. Robots
Yeah.
now with so you know. I even, as I told you, I can even control my smart home with a SUI wallet now, right? So imagine
Yeah.
if I had the AI and eventually the AI is automatically sending transactions from my wallet, and I need these agents to run. 100%, the blockchains will be used as a marketplace to buy, manage your own AI content data.
For
So we
sure.
are
For
going
sure.
to
Yes.
see AI agents to produce data or
Yeah.
feed with data Walrus and SUI, but we need to
Mm.
create marketplaces here. Someone has to
Mm.
create a marketplace. I haven't seen a
Yeah.
good marketplace yet. There
Yeah.
is machine learning for auto audits. There is contests. Why don't we still see AI bot agent contests? There is,
Mm.
you can even do poker on saying that bots are playing between each other. You're programming your agents to actually play against each other. We're
Yeah.
creating a new economy, right? You can even
Yeah.
have like virtual soccer on chain. You can even have robots on everything on chain.
Yeah.
Then the other, in my opinion, that is super important, the blockchain is full of public data. You can
Yeah.
use it as reading from Twitter and social to create trend finders, classification of smart contract types, hypes. You can see whatever smart
Mm.
contract is very good at one chain, and then you use the same technique in another blockchain, or you can combine
Mm.
techniques from different smart contracts to create a startup. I still don't see why
Yeah.
all of the people are thinking about their own ideas without also trying to have an optimization via AI, but this has to be in an
Yeah.
evolving form, right? Literally, the AI should feed you every single time about your startup ideas or about your trading platform,
Yes.
trading strategies.
Exactly.
This should happen and
Exactly.
should be an agent. It should be like your phone, like your literally an embedded agent under your skin. This is where I believe
Yeah.
we're heading with blockchain and AI. There are at least
Yeah.
20 categories, in my opinion. All of them are having a niche market at the moment, and there is a gap in the ecosystem where people can build startups.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also I believe that indeed SUI, as a foundation and as a network has eyes on the best projects already. And you guys will do your part of the deal in amplifying the best of the best so that those applications actually can scale up. I really love what you just touched on at the end there. I have a running kind of like exploration of something which I call generative UI, which basically is a function for rollup, but it could become a standalone product where you can just like put in certain accounts, put in certain keywords, put in certain filters, and AI agents just monitor like whatever you want, like whether it's like a certain combination that is able to like service new ideas for your business, or bring you up to speed on the latest narratives within the market or anything, but then propagate that information into again a layer coordinated by artificial intelligence, which just generates user experiences on the fly, custom dashboards, customly propagated summaries, trend analysis, narrative analysis, maybe certain kind of like even up to like the level of knowledge graphs where you can click through different posts that are associated with each other and different pieces of information. Like these kinds of things are just so powerful and so interesting because we invented literally like a function which enriches all the data which is already out there and makes it even more useful. Like there's so many opportunities. So thank you so much for sharing that, man. Like it's really exciting to be part of this ecosystem. One final question before we drop off. Our community let me know that they would really like to know why you and the SUI Foundation and Mission Labs chose Swarm Network to be part of the SUI Hub Accelerator.
Oh, it's very easy. In my opinion, we need some strong teams in the AI spectrum. There is a huge gap in the space at the moment. I can see how swarm of agents and all of these things has a future in our world. And look, the whole presentation and the whole ideas are pretty much for me appealing to be in this space of successful startups. So we also want successful companies, not only for trading, but also in other sectors, because we don't want us as a blockchain to only have one side of the equation and we lose the infrastructure layer. And AI can bring scalability and verifiability on chain, which in my opinion is missing. And it's also aligned
Mm-hmm.
with all of the feedback that I personally have from different institutions and governments that they are looking to explore such solutions. I don't know if you can
Mm-hmm.
eventually, because this is on you, this part is on you. You
Mm-hmm.
can scale into the super high quality that some governments will want you to work with you.
Mm-hmm.
But at the moment, from anything that I've seen, you had the better chances than anybody else. So that was the
Thank you very
reason
much.
I personally even voted for you in the judging community.
Awesome. Kostas, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure to talk to you. I've sent you a message on Telegram as well, and I hope that we can stay in touch and from time to time pass some ideas around. And yeah, I'm honored, man. Thank you so much.
Likewise, thanks everybody for joining. I'm here for any questions that you want post this podcast. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, guys, for the near 1,000 people that are joining tonight, or afternoon or evening, wherever you may be. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys learned something. I know some of the information was probably a little bit hard to digest, but luckily we have AI. And if there's anything that you need to know or that you don't understand, go ahead and research it because we are on the fringes of the Web3 industry here, and it's important and imperative that you understand what we talked about today because we are here to stay. Thank you. Bye bye.